Hey, what's up, you guys? Is Alex Pereira chasing a third world title up at heavyweight against Tom Aspinal? We're gonna go ahead and break this down, you guys. Please leave a comment down below, like the video, and subscribe. So, when it comes to the topic of Alex Pereira going up to heavyweight, I mean, we've heard this conversation before. They've asked Glover, how does he think, Alex would do at heavyweight? And, the relative answer is that, Alex is a big guy. He naturally weighs around 230 and then cuts to 205. It's crazy he even made middleweight, but maybe later down the road we could see Alex be at heavyweight. Obviously I thought the guy was a massive middleweight. I thought he was actually a pretty decent size light heavyweight, but as a heavyweight itself I think he's pretty undersized, man. Nonetheless though, if he's walking around the 230s and then he takes 6 months to a year to put on that extra needed muscle, who knows, we could see him compete naturally and be able to not have as much as a disadvantage against these heavyweight fighters. But the reason I even bring this up to you guys is because Alex Pereira took to Instagram and he posted a very cryptic message. He put 30 plus 300 equals 3, and I feel right off the bat people are well, what does that even mean? What is bro talking about? But a lot of people in the MMA community try to decipher this message, and they basically think that it says 30 pounds plus UFC 300 equals 3 world titles. And normally I wouldn't put too much weight behind this theory, but the thing is, the UFC seems like they desperately need a big star, a big fight for UFC 300, and we've all kind of speculated that pretty much everyone is booked up. They won't be able to make the date of April except 2 people, and that is Islam Makhachev and Alex Pereira. Tom Aspinal too, if you count interim champions, but even then you got to take Islam out of the equation because of Ramadan. So really Alex Pereira would be the only person holding an actual world title that could compete on that card. But throwing in Tom Aspinal, now this is where the conversation starts to get crazy. So obviously we know Jon Jones and Stipe, they're matched up. they were supposed to fight in November, but things fell out. We've had official confirmation that Dana White and the UFC want to keep Jones and Stipe together and make that fight later on in 2024. Most likely will be headlining July's International Fight Week card. But other than that, a big topic within the MMA community is, well, what do you do with Tom Aspinal? Because he is the interim champion, but assuming that Jones and Stipe have to fight International Fight Week in July, and so that fight puts it halfway through 2024, leaving the other half for a potential fight with the winner, which we all assume is going to be Jon Jones, to fight Tom Aspinal. And man, who even knows if Jones will be able to fight in July nonetheless, again in the second half of 2024, to fit the time schedule for Tom Aspinal to be able to compete. That would put Aspinal at more than a year layoff. And Jones is a guy that's been known to take his time in between fights. The guy took 3 years before he came to heavyweight. Granted, he needed the necessary time to put on the weight naturally, but then also he's injured right now, so we don't know how that shoulder is going to look, how the fight with Stipe is going to look. And one of the biggest factors too that we haven't discussed is there's a huge possibility that Jones versus Miocic, we're gonna see both guys retire after this fight. Jon Jones has already said that he has no interest in fighting Tom Aspinal and this newer generation of heavyweights, and we know this for a fact because he's been out there on the record and said it. And we've seen examples of it too, because after his fight with Cyril Gane, he immediately went out there and he called out Stipe. He could have called out anyone else in the division. I get he wants to fight the greatest heavyweight of all time, and that makes sense because he wants to add to his legacy. But you wouldn't hear him saying stuff like, "Yo, I have no interest in Tom Aspinal or Sergey Pavlovich or any of the other new generation heavyweights." So really, Tom Aspinal's future, in regards to his next fight, really relies on what Jon Jones is going to do if he's going to fight Stipe, in the middle of 2024, or if he's going to retire. That's why, I feel for the most part that most people expect, Tom Aspinal to fight in between. It's not out of the norm for an interim champion to get a fight in between like we saw with Colby Covington. So, realistically, a massive fight between Alex Pereira and Tom Aspinal set up at UFC 300, while it is kind of out of the ordinary, it is kind of why? It's so it kind of just happened. Really no type of backstory, you know, behind it. I think it does kind of make sense, you know, as far as Tom Aspinall goes. I don't think it makes much sense for Alex Pereira unless he's, you know, gets a big payday from the UFC and it's like, oh, well, I was given this opportunity. Let's see what happens. I really think other than that itself, it's kind of like, why is this fight happening? We also did hear from Tom Aspinall himself, you know, when he went on the True Geordie podcast, you know, he told True Geordie that he thought Alex Pereira was sizing him up a little bit during, you know, the press conference for the MSG card. And, you know, who knows? It actually could have been that he was just like seeing his competition, or, you know, maybe he took it out of context. But with this kind of indication that, you know, he might have a potential move up to heavyweight for, you know, a UFC 300 card, who knows? I want to get your guys' opinion on this, man. If, you know, UFC 300 comes around and we hear that Alex Pereira is in fact on the card, I mean, who do you guys want to see him fight against? There's a real good potential for, you know, the winner of Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker, you know, the first card of, you know, 2024. You could also make a really good case for Israel Adesanya, something I have been saying for a while now. You could also have, you know, the rightful #1 contender Jamal Hill in that spot as well. But so now we're seeing that there is also a potential for Tom Aspinall. So let me know your guys' thoughts down below. I mean, who would you like to see him fight? If this is even in the realm of possibilities, please, you guys, like the video, comment down below, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.